Restore the old ways. Jeremiah chapter 6 verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the way and see and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your soul. But they said, we will not walk therein. Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And Elohim, and in the same chapter, verse 29, and Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, and to you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life. I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, and Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and to keep it. For much of man's history of mankind, we have all been in the occupation somewhere of producing food or sustenance for either ourselves, our fellow man, and even animals. Until I would say the last 150 years, agriculture was the biggest occupation or biggest vocation in the world. That's the way we were made to subdue the earth. We were made to till the ground. We were put in the garden. We were made to rule over the earth. Well, the West, things have changed a little bit. The people have been moved from the countries, they've been moved from the farms, they've been moved into the cities, they've been packed together like sardines. Instead of people actually taking care of the food that they were to eat or produce for themselves and their neighbors, it's all been turned over to major corporations, Monsanto, Bayer, most of your big agribusiness concerns, Tyson, Purdue. We wonder, in America right now, most of us suffer from some kind of major life disease. We have cancer. This conditions have been skyrocketing. We have different neurological disorders, different chronic conditions, arthritis, heart disease. Well, why is that? If you look all over the world today, you can go and there will be people who's going to starve to death today. There are people who have to eat mud pies daily. And we don't understand how blessed we are in the United States or anywhere in the West. As believers, we are to feed the poor and help people who are in need. Feeding the needy is part of serving one another, and as we serve others, we are serving Yeshua. And we just heard an excellent, Bill just did an excellent quote out of scriptures talking about all that. And you think about it, when you go to the store and you happen to see a homeless man, a lot of people here do. They will buy him something to eat. That is, if he wants to eat. A lot of them, they want to take that money and, get a little rock or something like that. Their mind is on a different thing. But there are many poor out there who are struggling to make it. And one thing in the Western society is we were given the commission, and one of the commission, and I'm talking about all people, every man, woman, child on this earth, were put out. They were given dominion. They were supposed to subdue the earth. They were supposed to make their living by the sweat of their brow. But things have changed, now that we have moved into the cities and everything. We have forgotten the old ways. And I watch some TV. I've seen things out there. What we call off-grid living or homesteading used to be, until very recently, everyday life for just about everyone on the planet. Well, we have become dependent on things. We've been doing things that our bodies are not made to do. And the people in the West wonder why we are always sick. Matthew 10:42 goes a little bit further, and it says, I will tell you with all certainty, whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is a disciple will never lose his reward. Proverbs 19:17, the one who is gracious to the poor lends to Yahweh, and Yahweh will repay him for his good deed. And Proverbs 22:9, a generous person will be blessed, for he gives some of his food to the poor. And in Corinthians 9:8, and Elohim is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. Well, we look around, we think, well, we push a button. We push a button on the door, and out comes water into a glass. We open the door, all kinds of food in it. Well, most people in the West today don't even know where their food comes from. And it's a real shame because we live under the system. These people, they will either get money from work or from whether it's given to them, whether they inherited or whatever. They'll take that money and they spend it on everything that they need. One of the things about money is people will find out how quickly it disappears. You go to work and you make a few dollars. You have this thing called FICA. It's going to take a good chunk out of it. You have income tax. You have state taxes. All kinds of taxes. You're going to, from all taxation, just taxation alone, you're going to lose half of what we've made. In the scriptures it talks about in this day that 10 women shall bake a man bread and he will not be satisfied. Well, why is that? We have given up our commission and we have outsourced it to other people. And now as things get advanced and technology advances, we're finding out that there's less and less need for people. And it's becoming a real big problem in this country and a lot of others too. Well, one of the things I suggest and I've been trying to talk about is, and I'm guilty of it myself, is trying to go back to the old paths. What do we need to do to have food independence or be able to provide for our basic needs? And there's some in the congregation here, and I know a few, that actually do grow and they do try to produce what they eat. I know several people have plants. I know several people here have gardens. And I'm just getting to the point where I'm learning how to do a lot of this. But these are the old ways. You know, if you look in Scripture, so much of Scripture has to do with agriculture, has to do with planting, has to do with growing, has to do with the harvest. I mean, it's in and out through just about every book in the Scripture, one place or another, is going to mention something having to do with agriculture. But now we have, as Western people, we have gotten away from a lot of that. Most people will look down on a farmer or someone producing food and thinking, well, you're out there doing all that stuff. Why I'm out here, I'm making $50,000 a year teaching or, engineering, and completely out of out of what we've been, what Scripture tells us that we have to do. And what I'd like to do is encourage all of us, including me. I'll do some more reading. Suppose in James 2, 15 through 17. Suppose a brother or sister does not have any clothes or daily food, and one of you tells them, go in peace, stay warm and eat heartily. If you do not provide for the bodily needs, what good does it do? In the same way, faith itself, if it does not prove itself with actions, is dead. In 1 John 3:17 through 18, now suppose a person has enough to live on and notice another believer in need. How can Yah's love be in that person if he doesn't bother to help the other believer? Dear children, we must show love through actions that are sincere, not through empty words. And one thing I have to say, I am blessed to be in the congregation that does love one another, that does help one another. But as we continue, we find out in our industrial agricultural system, we find out that the fields are producing, the soil is getting poorer and poorer by the year. The crops are not, and pests and disease are eating out of the substance. And after a while, we have to find more land and produce and try to grow from there. And that's the problem in our society. Western society has the industrial farming rather than having somebody that knows his little plot or little thing. And we keep to keep producing. So they know what produces, where the warm spots are in each of the fields or right around the house. I mean, one of these days, and it's coming soon, our economic system is gonna be in the toilet really, really badly. I mean, think about it. If we all here were to have our credit cards shut off, our ATM cards shut off, and not have a dime coming in, how many of us in here, just the way society is, could survive about 5 or 6 months? We have to think about things like this because we're told that we have to teach the world. Well, right now we are the kingdom of Yahweh. We are the body of Yeshua. When this collapse occurs, how many of us will be able to go out and teach other people, say, okay, this is how you plant, this is how you do this is how you're going to be able to get food? Because there is going to come a time where there are going to be a lot of hungry people in this country. And if you look right now, there's more fruit. And a lot of people be surprised in shampoo than a lot of people get every day. I mean, the stuff that we buy in the store is junk. And how many people here have one or even two food-bearing plants in their yard? I mean, it's just something that we do need to think about, because we are given the command to subdue the earth. We're giving a command, you know, we're put in charge of the garden. We're put in charge of our own food production. Now, granted, Yahweh says that if we don't obey His law, that He's going to turn our heavens into iron and our ground into bronze. In other words, He's going to bring about famine. And I'm not talking about, a lot of people think, well, I talk about food production, talking about planting, you know, that I don't trust Yahweh to provide. That is not the case. We plant, we can sow the seed, we can water, but it's Yahweh, it's going to make it grow. I believe that in the next few years, we should try to move a little bit more towards agrarian development, because that's what Yahweh put us on the earth to do, is to subdue it. He says it right in the beginning. He says to go out, multiply, and go out and replenish the earth. And it's found in the most prophetic book in the scriptures. And a lot of people, they will say, well, is that Daniel? Is that Jeremiah? Ezekiel? The prophetic book in the scriptures is the very beginning, is Genesis. Because it tells how we all got here. And it tells what we're supposed to do. As we are Israel, we're supposed to bless the nations. As a matter of fact, in Israel, King Solomon taught the entire world. And when I say the entire world, it's in Scripture where we go, where he reached out to the four corners of the earth. He taught every nation. If you go out to some places in Africa, even some places in the ancient Middle East, and especially South America, you'll find traces of a civilization that fed millions and millions of people, especially in the Amazon area. Now, you look in that area now, you'll see that the soil there is totally poor, cannot grow anything. But in spots, people had the knowledge, and they were able to build it up. They stirred soil there that was made by man many years ago. I'm talking about over 1,000 years ago. That's still productive today. Now, where do you think that knowledge has come from? Solomon was, when he became king, his prayer was, please give me the wisdom to lead these people. I don't have any of this experience. And since he didn't ask for gold, he didn't ask for silver or power over any of the enemies, Yahweh looked at Solomon and says, not only I'm going to give you the wisdom you ask for, I'm also going to give you all these riches. Solomon at one time followed the old paths. He followed, he was a naturalist, he was an engineer, and he was able to spread all the knowledge. And at that time, about 1,000 years BC, Israel had a greatness that a lot of people don't even know, because even to the ancient Romans ancient Israel. That was still an ancient culture to them. But they were prosperous because they followed the old ways. The old ways involves not just going to service, or not just going sorry. We were told, we're told now that we have to go get a nice expensive education, go to work in whatever field, and that we would prosper. Well, we find out today that there are a few that prosper. Most of the people that get the big education, they struggle because not only do they have to compete against everyone else that's doing the same thing in this country, they also have to go compete against the third world. What we need is a change to go back to the old paths. We are on our walk out of Babylon. And one of the things that we can do is we can once again learn the art of feeding ourselves and each other. Whether it's by growing plants, or it's by attending to animals, or whatever kind of agriculture that we're going to be that we should be involved in, it is time to get back to the basics. I mean, this is a short one. All I can say is Yahweh bless.